Should you join the bandwagon of quitting your cushy full-time job? As someone who only quit a few months ago, I learned something pretty big that no one really talks about, and how this could also determine how productive or how well you do after you leave your full-time job to pursue passion or personal projects. Hey guys, it's City Kapantua, and today I'd like to talk about my experience when I quit my full-time job. During this pandemic, it was more common that many artists in the industry left their full-time jobs to become a freelancer elsewhere, or to give more time to pursue their passion, whether it's personal projects, their passion, or whatever it is. In its own way, it became a trend and a movement. It became empowering, knowing that there were many people leaving their full-time job to find other venues of income and stable living, ranging from teaching to merchandising to other income plans, while being able to make the things that they've always wanted to make from the heart. However, the idea of quitting your full-time job might not be for everyone. Me leaving my full-time job, I actually learned a lot about myself that I wouldn't even realize. And I do want to share my experience, some bits and pieces and advice that I'd love to share. First, a little ad. I was talking to this Ethan Becker the other day, who's going to start some online class called the Animation Bootcamp. We were just talking about animation pipeline stuff, and he was showing me a bit of his film that he was working on, and I gotta say, I was a little jealous. But what made me even more jealous is that he's starting his own lineup of red short shorts. The course, the Animation Bootcamp, led by Ethan Becker, is a 6-week course of pre-producing a short film, from the planning to writing to recording dialogue, voice acting, and then finally making an animatic out of it. After the 6-week course, students are given about 3 weeks to finish their project until the final submission date. Who does he think he is, trying to make something that's equivalent to a film workshop class at Cal Arts? Times be crazy nowadays, man. There's a grand prize of $1,000 and that could be you. Ethan's worked with the Voltron team, the Korra team, Studio Mir team, and other action-oriented shows, so he's got some helpful tricks up his sleeve. So want to make a short with Ethan and other cool people? Because that's right, Sunny Jim, it's a live class. Like duh. Go to redhowtoclass.com, link provided in the description below, and sign up for his class. It will tinkle his dinkle, and your dinkle too. I used to teach animation on this platform, and there's other talented teachers too that you also might want to consider. Anyways, back to quitting my job. For those who don't know, I left my full-time job back in August with the sole purpose of giving myself more time for my own personal projects, to do more teaching, because for me, there's good income in that since I'm familiar with teaching, and to live off as a freelancer. Now, there were other reasons I had, such as giving myself more time to breathe since I was kind of burned out from my full-time work, and to explore other types of projects and venues. I talked to my coworkers, people that I looked up to, veterans that have been decades in this industry. And you know what? They've all vouched for it. My job status was usually dictated by the state of a production, whether I was let go because a movie was canceled, or my contract was done, or the production wrapped up. Although there was one time I switched studios because the position and the pay was better. This is my first time leaving a studio and not do full-time work anytime soon. Just to be clear, there were a lot of things I was told before I left my full-time job. I was told if I wanted to stay afloat while doing my own stuff, I had to work much harder to form a concrete plan. I have to be super productive. I also knew that whatever I do, I know that there's a chance that it won't reap me happiness or success or help me get closer to my goals. I hear stories of people leaving their jobs to give everything to chance and not do so well afterwards. I personally didn't have a lot to lose. I saved enough where I could spend half a year with just passive income and not taking up any freelance or full-time jobs. I didn't have a family to take care of, so in that regard, I was fortunate. I had the perfect circumstance to work on my own passion projects and to be highly productive. I could basically whip out a draft for a pilot or two. Also, I'm familiar with the workflow and have connections, so I could possibly get some good funding for a bigger project moving. In fact, I could do so much with all the time I have right now. I could finish some projects I left hanging, stupid shorts, a high quality shorts, more experimentation, and maybe even comics. There's so much time for me to do all these things. I also want to allocate more time to give myself more breaks. I never really traveled anywhere, I never really did trips, and I saved up so much rewards benefit points that multiple plane tickets and hotels are free for me. And I'll talk a bit more about the break stuff later on. So now a couple of months just passed, and I wasn't as productive as I thought I would be, and I realized I procrastinate much more than I did when I had a full-time job, even if I had all the time in the world. And I want to address the biggest thing I learned after I quit my full-time gig. You see, when I have all the time to myself now, I also realize I have some underlying problems that I have not addressed over time, and those underlying problems affected my productivity, even if I had all the time in the world. Having a full-time job was just a distraction because it kept me busy, and it gave me me a sense of structure to follow. But I learned that I still have a problem with my relationship to my work in social media, for example, and being by myself only gave me more time to indulge in the worst aspects of it. I compared myself a lot to my acquaintances, them getting promoted or getting accolades for their ventures, their shows getting greenlit. It made me feel like a bum compared to them, and of course, all of these feelings would just lead me to slump and not do anything, just feel bad, feel mopey. And then I begin to doubt myself, the projects I'm working on, is this worth it? Is this going to do any good for me in the future? I don't know. And a bunch of other problems, health stuff, family stuff. It just piled up. And it piled up to the point where it became so unbearable where I can do nothing but address it. So leaving my full-time gig allowed me to see that side of me, something that I kind of put aside for a very long time. And it also made me realize that I need to step away from things to help improve my mindset. So even though I thought that I was going to be more active on social media, on YouTube, or on the internet space, I've been cutting it down by 50% because of how taxing it is to my mental health. But I'm starting to see some positive changes. My outlook on people has been better. I've been getting better at my empathy skills. I've also been excited about taking new hobbies, like I want to learn how to play an instrument, and I've also been a bit more productive. Me actually leaving my full-time job actually gave me the space to acknowledge that, and these couple of months has just been me working on myself, really, and giving myself more breaks, going on trips, seeing friends that have left the industry to be a freelancer or to work off-site. I just see it another part of human growth. So, do I regret quitting because I wasn't as productive or achieving all these really cool things after I left? Absolutely not, and I think it's still very early for that, and a part of leaving a full-time gig is to learn more about, myself than just the passion or the craft that I do. I spent more time writing than drawing or animating, but more so on journaling than coming up with ideas for pitch packets and projects for animated shows and films and all these ideas. Luckily, my YouTube channel I treat it as a journal, so I'm killing two birds with one stone here. Oh, another thing that I've been working on is to just give myself more credit. I still made things, I still did art. Even if it wasn't the caliber I wanted, I still did something for myself, and that's enough. I know that I'm usually very hard on myself, and when I don't reach a certain milestone, I'm very brutal on myself. But I'm practicing the idea of being more thankful of all the things that I do for myself. And once I'm ready, oh boy, production is gonna get crazy. So maybe you're thinking of quitting your full-time gig to pursue your own personal ventures or passion projects, whatever. I do have some other thoughts and possible advice that I'd love to share. The first one is have structure in your day-to-day life. My full-time job gave me a structure. It gave me an 8-hour work schedule, so I knew when I should be working, when I should be having lunch, when I should take breaks. And structure can be applied anywhere. It's a routine really, so knowing when you wake up, eat, work on your project, take a class, take up a new hobby, and times when you should not be working at all. For those who have pets, you kind of understand what I'm talking about. So for me, I didn't really have structure. I don't really have a pet, and I think having some form of structure allows your mental and physical self to adapt to a certain flow. Structure also gives a sense of purpose to your activities. I do this because I want to get buff, or I'm learning a new hobby because a part of me wants to make things out of it. I guess having a schedule or setting deadlines counts as structure, but I would just start with the basics of having a day-to-day practice. The next one I want to address is the paradox of choice. And the paradox of choice, as someone who quit, was actually quite stressful. And it's the idea of having all these different things that you could do with all the time that you have. I could do a comic, a film, a pitch Bible, and all these other things, but which one should I be doing? And there's so much choice that I contradict myself in figuring out which one is the right one for me, which led to me just to procrastinate even more. Because of this, it just led me to kind of step away and not work on anything at all, which also is a beneficial thing, and you should have time for that. So if you're going to do something during your time, whether it's working on a project, giving yourself space, or enjoying the moment, just focus on one thing at a time. And if you want to give yourself an end date for that, mark it down in your schedule. The next one I want to talk about is keeping your community small, and there's a reason why I don't have a public Discord group yet. I keep my circle of friends and community small. I need people in my life that kind of understand what I'm going through rather than have them contradict every choice that I have. So you want to surround yourself with people who kind of understand what you're going through and are supportive of that, and can give you their own opinions and criticism while being respectful. I think if I open up to a mass crowd, it feels like I have much more to owe, and there's more judgment on me. Also, I'm an introvert, so I don't do anything that would drain my batteries faster. Also, the great thing about having a small community and people that you trust is that you can show each other progress, you can motivate each other. You can keep this conversation going and give each other strategies and how to stay afloat. Want to actually get things done? Add an element of risk. So I would only advise this to anyone who is feeling brave or confident about themselves. I got this advice from Jorge Gutierrez. By the way, congrats Jorge on your show Maya and the Three. So another way one could describe this is maybe using fear as a motivator, which is kind of terrible when I say it like that. For example, if I don't do this, I will lose this sort of mentality. Actually, when I was talking to James Baxter about my plans, he was using a metaphor about jumping off a cliff into rough waters and having to do everything you can to stay afloat, which is actually quite similar to Jorge's advice. However, my biggest advice here is if you're a very anxious person to begin with, I would suggest starting small. Small projects, small risk, nothing too big and unrealistic. However, if you feel like you're in a good mental state and you want a bit of a bigger risk, think about scheduling, have an end date for your project, get others involved. Pay for that individual, increase the stakes, and a bit of risk can also help form the structure that I talked about earlier. Another thing that people need to know is passion project is work, and if you're going to leave your full-time job to pursue passion projects as your new full-time gig, it is work. But it's my passion, I'm gonna give it everything, my all, it's gonna be great. What passion? Passion? What passion? You still have to do things like accounting, planning, contracts for legality issues, a bit of human management, customer service, for example, if you're selling online tutorials like I do. It's not just the creative stuff, it's the labor stuff, it's the accounting stuff. It's the stuff that most creative people have zero desire or passion to do. If you plan on making this financially secure, you have to treat it like a business. And also, it's time to invest in other income plans too. The next one is being your own boss and being your own cheerleader. When things go down, you have to be able to pick yourself back up and form a new plan. While it is empowering to be able to do everything by yourself with the autonomy that you have, you also have to be the one that tells yourself that what you're doing is enough in all your power. You're going to have to be making the decisions and calling the shots, whether to quit and abandon a project or a task, or to keep going and not give up. And the last one I want to tell you is that never treat this as permanent and always be open that you might have to go back into your full-time gig, and that is totally fine. Leaving to do your own passion project is really just another production. Productions come, productions go, you move on to the next. There's honestly no shame in that, and when people think about people leaving their cushy full-time jobs to do their own personal thing, they think that they're leaving for good. And when they come back, it's kind of like, see, I told you so, this sort of like shame and humiliation, and that's really not a deal. So I would say, be okay and be open with coming back into your full-time gig under a company, a studio, an industry job. So don't do anything that will burn your reputation down to the ground. Look, another way to treat this thing is as you're taking a break from the industry or just having a full-time job. And this is to let you know the reason why I quit my job wasn't out of spite. I wasn't angry at anything. In fact, a lot of the studios I've been at treated me really well. I had some benefits, some perks. They would give me opportunities and trust me with tasks that was kind of out of my range, which was really cool. And I maintained great relationships with all my coworkers. And the reason for me leaving is just to fulfill some urges that I've had for a very long time. I also needed to personally grow, and I didn't think that the place that I was at was giving me that. And the timing was right. Catch the wave right now. And I also knew from the very beginning that this is not permanent. I'll probably have to come back into work. So should you quit your full-time job just to follow the bandwagon of following your passion? And as powerful as it is to encourage it, I know that it's not for everyone. There are people who understand their place more than I understand my own. You should also know that everyone leaves for different reasons, and people can't leave for certain circumstances, like family, or internationals who can't leave their job because of visas. So I left thinking that I would be highly productive and whip out a lot of cool things, but I was just taking it slow and learning more about myself. I wouldn't do it if I wasn't financially stable or if I had much more to lose. Like I said, I saved enough to support myself for multiple months. But I think if you have enough space where it can be used to learn more about yourself outside of the work, the career, your craft, your passion, I think it can be a powerful road to explore. I'm still going to explore this road to see what else I have to say about it. Anyways, that's all. See ya, bye. Interested in learning hand-drawn animation or learning how to finish an animated shot from beginning to end? Have a look at the store where you'll find the complete Introduction to 2D Animation video course, tutorials, and other resources. Learn classical animation approaches, drawing, lectures, techniques, and other process videos. Visit the store through the link in the description below.